Hello there, and welcome back to Writing from Scratch with me, Tom. On today's video, we're exploring the expression less is more. Just like show don't tell, less is more is another rule that we can use for writing to produce better and more professional prose. So to begin with, let's explore what we mean by less is more and why it's so important. When we use the expression less is more, we're referring to many different aspects of writing. This could be as simple as reducing the number of words within your writing, or making your descriptions less complicated. Really, how you do this also depends on your writing style, how much information you want to give to the reader, and what kind of tone you're hoping to strike in your book. So there's lots of different things and lots of different elements that we can reduce to mean less, and let's explore why it's so important. The simple explanation is that writing less means that your book will be more reader-friendly. And at the end of the day, making your reader happy should be your primary focus as an author. Writing less maintains the pace of your book, and it helps your audience understand what's going on. And ultimately, it saves them time. Wasting words also wastes the reader's time, and this is something we need to be really conscious of. Reader enjoyment is impacted by many things, such as the size of the text and the vocabulary being used. Think about a wall of writing containing lots of academic words and whether this is something that you're going to be naturally drawn towards. In fact, most readers prefer to see short, broken up paragraphs that use succinct, relevant, and clear vocabulary to get the point across, and they usually find this the most enjoyable. More than that, it says something about you as a writer. Mark Twain once said, "I didn't have time to write a short letter, so I wrote a long one instead." Which is to mean that it's easier to write a long, rambling text than a short, concise prose, because you don't need to edit or think about what you're writing. However, if you want to show respect to your reader, then you should show them that every single word has had thought behind it. Finally, this technique is good for you too. As you practice this technique more, it will save you time both in the writing and in the editing further down the line. By being able to write in relevant, succinct, and short ways, it will allow you to avoid getting into the trap of writing long, exasperating pieces of text that need to be heavily edited later. So, let's look at 8 different techniques that you can employ to make sure that you're following the rule of less is more. First, and most obviously, is using less words. This tightens your writing and makes sure that you're focusing on the relevant and core points of your text. Stephen King once said, "The road to hell is paved with adverbs," and this is pretty sound writing advice for making your writing concise. Especially when it comes to adverbs such as very or really, it is better to find more suitable adjectives that incorporate their effect than use adverbs. For example, instead of saying, "He was a very large man," we can say, "He is huge." This paints a more interesting picture for our reader and cuts out the fluff that doesn't add anything to the passage. The information is the same, but more reader-friendly. To give another adverb example, instead of saying, "She ran quickly to the car," we can say, "She sprinted to the car." Once again, cutting the adverb and replacing the adjective with something more precise gives more information with fewer words. All of this connects and engages your reader to the story by using relevant and precise words that don't waste their time. This goes for adverbs that don't add anything extra, such as whispering quietly or shouting loudly. Whisper and shout already imply qualities of volume and don't need adverbs to make that clear. Secondly, it's important to use a wide variety of words. Not only does this stop your writing from becoming boring, but it also removes the temptation of wanting to write longer passages to explain things in detail. Using alternative words with the same meaning is essential to keeping your reader engaged and your prose fresh. You can keep the number of words the same, but vary which ones you use. Use a thesaurus to discover new words that share the same meaning. For example, "He is huge" can be "he is gigantic," or "massive," or "enormous." Same number of words, but still interesting for our reader. Thirdly, make sure that when you're writing, you're trying to use shorter sentences. Not only is this easier for your reader to engage with, but it also forces you to be more creative in the way that you express things. Let's look at some examples. Longer sentences tend to lose the attention span of the reader quickly and don't allow them to process all the information within them correctly, often leading to the reader forgetting key information. Short sentences are easier to read and focus on. They help the reader remember information. Very much the same information in those two sentences, but the second sentence is far more effective. This links with using fewer words too, so it's important to do both in order to achieve the effect. Fourth, you need to understand the point of the passage that you're writing and why it's involved in the story at all. More than that, you need to make sure that you get to the point quickly as well. This keeps your reader interested, and if something isn't relevant to the story, it can be reduced or cut out entirely. Once you've established the point, you need to get there quickly, so you don't end up writing something about nothing or boring your reader. The trick to this is to start with the conclusion. This does two things. It hooks the reader, as they will want to know how or why the situation was arrived at, and secondly, it provides context for them to use as writing unfolds. Here's an example. I killed him because he stole my favorite sandwich. He stole my favorite sandwich, so I killed him. Both of these sentences express the same actions and use the same number of words, but the first is more gripping and a better example of less is more, because it gets to the point quickly and doesn't waste anybody's time. Of course, the second sentence has function, but really our focus should probably be on the murder rather than the thievery. Unless you want your reader to think otherwise, the first sentence is better. Fifth, it's really important that we're using simple and clear language that doesn't require our reader to use a dictionary. This could mean that you take one big word and break it down into two smaller ones. As long as this makes the experience more enjoyable for the reader, that should be our main focus, not trying to use the most sophisticated or advanced vocabulary. There's a reason people don't use academic papers as their casual reading material, and that's because the language is not suitable for pleasure reading. Unless your audience is academic, you want to make sure that you're keeping your language simple and clear. It goes back to our video on Chapter 1. Don't get caught up in your own amazing vocabulary, as this often puts off your reader and makes you seem snobby. For example, the car drove slowly down the road is a simple and clear sentence, but the automobile chugged lethargically along the asphalt-covered carriageway is sure to turn off many readers. Sixth is about writing dialogue, and for most of your writing you should only be using the verbs say and ask when describing how someone's speaking. In fact, in lots of cases you can even cut them all together if it's clear who's speaking. This connects to our last point about using simple and clear language. But also, when you do use a special speech verb, such as shout or whisper, it makes its impact more noticeable. After all, in real life we say things most of the time. For example, "Really?" he questioned suspiciously. "Yes," she opined confidently. "I see," he mused thoughtfully. "I'm glad," she chirped. Instead, it's better to do this. "Really?" he asked. "Yes," she said. "I see. I'm glad." This is much cleaner and easier for your reader to understand. It also makes the dialogue faster, which also reflects how we speak in real life. Seven is about using punctuation to make your writing clear and concise. Now, this can be tricky, especially with relatively rare pieces of punctuation such as semicolons, but it's a great way to shorten the amount of words that you're using and deliver information efficiently. So, for example, I could say, "I went to Vietnam last year, went to France and Germany 2 years ago, and went to Thailand and Brazil this year." But instead, using semicolons, I could say, "I went to Vietnam last year, France and Germany 2 years ago, and Thailand and Brazil this year." Using punctuation to your advantage can help reduce word usage and convey large amounts of information quickly to your audience. Finally, editing is a crucial part of this process. It might be easier, as Twain said, to write a long letter, as this means that you don't need to worry about everything that you're writing and can just stay focused on the core ideas. But once something is written, we must edit, and edit ruthlessly. You can go back and employ all of these rules into the work that you've written and try and find ways to make it shorter and more succinct for your reader. Editing is such a crucial part for creating an enjoyable experience for your audience, and it's very important that you are strict with yourself when you do this. So that's all we have for today. Thank you very much for watching the video, and I hope these 8 tips will help you employ less is more into your writing. Please consider liking, subscribing, and sharing the video with your friends, and I'll see you all next time. Thank you very much.